From things that consume gods to desecrating the dead, evil in these worlds take many forms. And today I'll be explaining Soulsborne and Elden Ring's most evil characters. Devourer of Gods, Dark Souls 3. Aldrich is one of the simplest entries on this list, and that is exactly what makes him unsettling. Aldrich began life as a cleric, someone tasked with spiritual guidance, protection, and moral leadership. Instead, he discovered that he enjoyed consuming human flesh, not out of desperation, not out of survival, but because he liked it. That distinction matters. Aldrich eats so many people that his body begins to lose its shape. He becomes a sludge, a mass, a thing driven by hunger, much like my cats once they hear me pick up their kibble. But even as he ascends to godhood, Aldrich never becomes passionate or emotional about his actions. There is no rage against the world. He doesn't justify himself. He just simply consumes, and then he escalates. Aldrich devours Gwyn, a god, while they are still alive, still conscious, still suffering. And this act is not framed as climatic evil. It's quiet, functional, treated almost as a necessity, which is perhaps the most disturbing part. Aldrich represents evil without hatred, without ideology, without even pleasure beyond satiation. He doesn't believe the world is wrong. He doesn't want to reshape it. He just doesn't care what happens to anyone else. All he wants is to consume. In Soulsborne, that absence of empathy is often more dangerous than malice. He is quite a disturbing presence within these games. The Dung Eater, Elden Ring. If Aldrich is divine hunger made flesh, then the Dung Eater is what happens when humanity rots from the inside out. He's not after power, not after glory. He doesn't even worship a god. He just enjoys it. In a world full of demigods, ancient serpents, and apocalyptic flames, the Dung Eater stands out because his evil is small, personal, physical, intimate. He doesn't just kill you, he defiles you. He takes the one thing every soul in the lands between craves: rebirth, renewal, and corrupts it. When you find him imprisoned in the Round Table Hold, he greets you with a warning: stay away from me. The curse spreads on contact. It's the one honest thing he'll ever say, because once you help him escape, you realize he wasn't warning you out of kindness. He was teasing you. He wanted you curious enough to open the door. The Dung Eater represents the purest, most primal form of cruelty, the kind that revels in degradation. His seedbed curse isn't just about spreading filth, it's about denying the very idea of hope. Every corpse he leaves behind becomes a monument to despair, ensuring that their souls can never find peace. And that's what makes him worse than most demigods. They destroy nations chasing power. He destroys people because he likes it, much like my ex-girlfriends. Some fans say he's just insane, maybe, but in a world obsessed with immortality and transcendence, he's the cruel reminder that sometimes evil doesn't need a reason. It just wants to watch everything decay. Body, soul, dignity. The Dung Eater doesn't hunger for godhood like Aldrich. He just wants to pull everything holy down into the mud with him and smile while he does it. And in the lands between, that's somehow worse. Shabriri, Elden Ring. If the Dung Eater is filth given flesh, then Shabriri is madness given voice. Where others kill or corrupt, Shabriri whispers. And those whispers have ended far more lives than any sword ever could. When you meet him, or rather the body he's possessing, he's not screaming or raving like the frenzied. He speaks softly, almost kindly, offering you purpose. That's the first sign you should run, because Shabriri doesn't take your life. He takes your will. In Elden Ring, he's the prophet of the frenzied flame, the chaotic god that wants to burn the world, not out of malice, but mercy twisted beyond recognition. And Shabriri, ever the faithful servant, spreads that message like a plague. He tells you that to embrace the frenzied flame is to save everyone, that destruction is salvation, that chaos is truth. It's the kind of lie that sounds almost noble if you're desperate enough to believe it, and that is what makes him terrifying. Most villains in the lands between crave power, legacy, or revenge. Shabriri just wants you to see what he sees, a universe so broken that the only cure is to watch it all burn. He's not a god, nor a demigod, not even truly alive. He's a parasite of thought, a fragment of chaos wearing human skin. Every word from his mouth is a spark in a forest already soaked in oil. Players have debated who or what Shabriri really is. A spirit of the frenzied flame, a corrupted soul, maybe even the flame itself given form. But in truth, it doesn't matter. Shabriri isn't meant to be understood. He's meant to be heard. And once you hear him, and once you start to believe that madness might be mercy, it's already too late. Shabriri's evil isn't loud. It's persuasive. He doesn't conquer by force. He converts. And in a world built on faith and fear, there's no weapon more dangerous than that. Host of the nightmare, Bloodborne. If Shabriri is madness, whispering softly in your ear, Micolash is what happens when madness gets tenure. He's not a brute, not a god, and isn't even particularly strong, but he might be the most dangerous kind of evil Bloodborne ever gave us, a true believer. Once, Micolash was just another scholar of Byrgenwerth, obsessed with the question that consumed the entire healing church. What lies beyond humanity? The others searched for enlightenment in science, in blood, in ritual, but Micolash, he decided to skip the middle steps and just talk to the gods directly, and somehow it worked. He called out to the great ones, and something answered. Maybe it was Kuss, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was just the sound of his own sanity snapping in half. half. But in that moment, Micolash became the host of the nightmare. He achieved the ultimate dream and then realized he could never wake up. Now he roams the halls of his own mind, a self-made prison of cobblestone corridors and echoing laughter, forever chasing a truth that only gets further away the closer he gets. Every step he takes, he's muttering, quoting himself like some kind of deranged professor grading his own essay. Ah, Kos, or some say Cosm, grant us eyes. That line says everything about him. He's begging for enlightenment. Grant us eyes. But he has no idea what he's asking for. He thinks eyes mean knowledge. But in Bloodborne, knowledge doesn't open your mind. It splits it. So now, Micolash is stuck in his own eternal lecture, reciting the same thesis over and over while his students, you, show up just to beat some sense into him. And honestly, it's kind of funny. He's the only boss fight in the entire game that feels like you're chasing a guy through a university building while he screams about his dissertation. You'll never wake up, he taunts. I'll forget everything. Yeah, buddy, we all forget things when we're dead. But beneath his absurdity, there's a tragic brilliance to Micolash. He represents everything Bloodborne warns against: the obsession with knowledge, the arrogance to chase the divine, and the belief that enlightenment will make you better. It didn't. It just made him hollow. He wanted to ascend. Instead, he became a parody of his own ambition, a puppet dancing for gods that don't even bother to look his way. Players often laugh when he shouts, "Ah, the nightmare swirls and churns unending," because, well, it does. And so does he. Forever running, forever babbling, forever almost understanding. And maybe that's the scariest part. Micolash isn't evil because he wanted to hurt anyone. He's evil because he didn't care what his search for truth would destroy along the way. He sacrificed lives, sanity, reality itself, all for a revelation that never came. He's a reminder that in Bloodborne, curiosity isn't a virtue, it's a disease. And Micolash, he's patient zero. Ah, well, it's been splendid. May the good blood guide your way. Sure, Micolash, whatever you say. Pontiff Sulyvahn, Dark Souls 3. If Micolash was madness born from curiosity, Pontiff Sulyvahn is corruption born from ambition. He's the kind of evil that doesn't start in darkness. It starts with a vision so grand, so all-consuming that everything good around him withers away. Before he was a tyrant, Sulyvahn was just a sorcerer from the Painted World, a place of exile and rejection. There, he found two things: fire and ice, cold sorcery and deep flame. Together, they became his tools and his temptation, because in the world of Dark Souls, the moment someone discovers true power, it's basically their countdown to becoming a monster. Sulyvahn rose fast, too fast. He left the Painted World, set his sights on Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, and through sheer force of will, took it. No army of gods, no divine blessing, just manipulation, cruelty, and a hunger for control that makes even the gods look lazy. He built a religion around himself, crowned himself pontiff, and turned Irithyll's once holy capital into a frozen kingdom of slaves and worshippers. And those holy knights who serve him? Yeah, those are his victims. Twisted, hollowed shells of men, mutilated and remade in his image. He didn't stop there. He chained up Gwyndolin, the last god of Honor Londo, and fed him to Aldrich. He corrupted the city's light with his own darkness, desecrating the very symbol of the gods he pretended to serve. Sulyvahn doesn't just destroy people, he destroys faith. He takes the sacred and uses it as a tool for power. He's a politician, priest, and a conqueror all rolled into one. Basically, every kind of person you don't want running your church. Some players think he's just another tyrant, but lore-wise, he's one of the key figures responsible for the decay of the entire world. He teaches others, like Aldrich and even Yorshka's followers, to embrace corruption, to worship the darkness under the illusion of light. And there's the moment you face him in his grand cathedral. He draws two blades, one of frost, one of fire, and moves with grace that feels almost holy. For a second, you get it. You see why people followed him, why they believed in him. Then he summons a clone of himself, because of course he does. What's more fitting for a man who worships his own image than fighting beside his mirror? You were born in fire, but I shall end you in frost. It's not canon dialogue, but if it were, it would fit him perfectly. Sulyvahn's entire identity is built on contradictions: fire and ice, faith and heresy, beauty and horror. He's the embodiment of what happens when a man believes his own lies long enough to make them true. And maybe that's why he's so terrifying. Not because he's powerful, but because his evil is organized, controlled, justified. He doesn't kill for pleasure, he kills for order, for belief, for a kingdom that only exists to glorify him. Sulyvahn isn't a monster pretending to be a man. He's a man pretending to be a god, and that's always worse. Old King Allant, Demon's Souls. If Pontiff Sulyvahn is ambition turned into tyranny, the old King Allant is what comes after ambition dies. He's not driven by greed anymore, or lust for power, or divine hunger. He's driven by disgust. Boletaria was once a kingdom that stood for honor and light, knights, banners, and the kind of medieval optimism that only exists before the first demon shows up. At its center sat King Allant, beloved, wise, powerful, until he wasn't. Because Allant, like every monarch in a Souls game, couldn't resist the whisper of greater power. He reached out to the Old One, a colossal sleeping four of chaos and soul energy, to secure his kingdom's future. And in doing so, he doomed it forever. The fog rolled in, the demons came, and Boletaria fell into ruin. But here's the thing, Allant didn't try to fix it. He didn't even fight it. He looked right at the carnage he caused, and decided it was right. That's the real horror of old King Allant. Not the fall, but the acceptance of it. He convinced himself that humanity was worthless, that existence itself was a mistake. He didn't just destroy his kingdom, he erased its reason to exist. When you finally meet him, or what's left of him, he's not a king at all. He's a formless, pulsing mass of flesh, slumped in a throne room turned to night. The mighty ruler of Boletaria reduced to a literal blob, a parody of his own arrogance. You can hear the universe laughing. It's easy to see Allant as a tragic figure, a man who flew too close to the sun and burned for it. But tragedy implies regret, and that's what makes him truly evil. He doesn't regret it. He still believes humanity deserves to die. He still thinks nothingness is mercy. When you strike him down, his sighs, not in pain, but in relief. You have been chosen by the Old One. Shall you seek the everlasting demon souls? Even in defeat, he's trying to pull you in, trying to make you believe the same hollow truth that devoured him. It's fitting, really. The man who wanted to end suffering ended up creating the pure form of it, a kingdom trapped in endless torment because their king decided it was better that way. Allant's evil isn't chaos, it's clarity. He looked into the abyss and saw peace, and then he made sure everyone else had to see it too. Lord of blasphemy, Elden Ring. Once, he was a noble demigod, son of Rennala and Radagon, brother to Ranni and Radon, royal blood, divine lineage, destined for greatness. But when you're born into a world ruled by gods and golden laws, greatness starts to look like a prison. Rykar wanted freedom, and when his rebellion began to fail, when his cause started to crumble, he did whatever From Software character eventually does. He made a deal with something he didn't understand. Beneath Mount Gelmir, he found the god-devouring serpent, a primordial horror, a creature that eats gods to steal their power. And Rykar, in an act of defiance so extreme it almost feels admirable, let himself be devoured. He chose to let himself be devoured, refused with the serpent body and soul, until there was no difference between man and monster. And from that union of blasphemy and pride came the Lord of Blasphemy, a god who devours gods, a demigod who believes sin itself can be sacred. When you fight him, his voice booms from the serpent's throat. Join the Serpent King. Your hunger shall feed the blasphemy. It's both an invitation and a mockery, because to Rykar, devouring the world isn't evil, it's freedom. He sees his corruption as a revolution. His kingdom of devourers, the Inquisitors and the man-serpents, worship him not out of fear, but devotion. They see him as a savior, a liberator from the Golden Order's chains. And maybe that's what makes him so terrifying. He's right, in a way. The Golden Order is oppressive. It dictates life, death, and destiny. Rykar's rebellion is the natural reaction to it, an explosion of hunger against divine control. But like all rebellion in the lands between, it consumes itself, literally. By the time you find him, Rykard's no longer a man, or even a demigod. He's a grotesque fusion of serpent and royalty, a crown buried in flesh, a voice echoing from a pit of fire. He's eating so much power, so many souls, that he's become nothing but appetite. There's a cruel irony there. He fought the gods by becoming one, and ended up worse than any of them. When he falls, he doesn't curse you. He roars with laughter, his body collapsing in flames. Because even in death, Rykard thinks he's won. He's proof that if you can't destroy the system, you can always swallow it whole. Rykard's evil isn't madness or cruelty. It's ideology gone feral. He believed freedom meant consuming everything that stood above him. And in the end, he found the only kind of liberation that the lands between ever truly offers. Oblivion, Queen Marika, Elden Ring. Every age of From Software's worlds has its architect of ruin. In Elden Ring, that architect is Queen Marika, the divine mother, the radiant goddess, and the quiet hand that shaped a world destined to break. Long before the shattering, before demigods turned the lands between into a graveyard of ambition, Marika was the chosen vessel of the greater will, a god beyond the stars. She was meant to be its perfect instrument, and for a while, she played the part beautifully. She brought all the chaos, built the tree and gave the world structure, and then she took away its freedom, because that's what the Golden Order really is. Divine tyranny wrapped in the language of salvation. Marika didn't rule through terror, she ruled through faith, and that's far more dangerous. Under her golden light, people didn't just obey, they believed. But then something changed. Maybe she got tired of being a puppet. Maybe she saw the truth behind the greater will's promises. Whatever it was, she decided to break her own system. She shattered the Elden Ring, the very symbol of the order she created, and then vanished, leaving the world to tear itself apart. It's the ultimate divine contradiction. The god who built the cage and then set it on fire. And yet, her motives aren't noble. Marika didn't destroy the order to save anyone. She did it to reclaim ownership of it. Even her rebellion is an act of control, chaos orchestrated, destruction by design. Every demigod war, every death, every drop of blood spilled in her name. It all all circles back to her. She crafted a system that made obedience indistinguishable from worship, and then punished the world for believing in it, and through it all, she hides behind silence, statues, and her own divinity. She never answers for what she's done, because gods don't answer. They decree. The worst part? She's not gone. She lingers within Radagon, her other half, her shadow, her mask, proving that even when she broke the Elden Ring, she couldn't let go of power. Marika didn't just play God, she became the concept of godhood itself, creation and destruction fused in one eternal contradiction. Marika's evil isn't loud or grotesque, it's patient and holy. It's the kind that doesn't burn the world because it hates it, because it owns it. Marika was the one who taught Rykar what blasphemy meant, Lord of Cinder, Dark Souls. Ah, Gwyn, the man, the myth, the legend. Once upon a time, he was the guy, the Lord of Sunlight, wielder of divine lightning, slayer of dragons. He gave humanity, light, order, civilization, and eventually a crippling case of burnout, literally. See, the first flame, that divine spark that created life itself, started to fade. And Gwyn, not a fan of the dark, did whatever From Software God does best when things go south. He panicked. Instead of letting nature take course, he decided to throw himself into the fire to keep it burning. And hey, noble sacrifice, right? The ultimate act of selflessness? Wrong. Gwyn didn't do it for us. He did it because he couldn't handle that being the main character anymore. The Age of Fire was ending, the Age of Man was next, and that's the last thing Gwyn wanted to happen. So he links the fire, becomes a giant piece of charcoal, and traps the entire world in an endless cycle of burning and rebirth. Every age that follows is just a sequel to his midlife crisis, and it doesn't even work that well for him. The fire keeps fading anyway, and you get to clean up his mess thousands of years later. When you finally find him, he's not sitting on a golden throne surrounded by angels. He's a withered husk in a dark chamber, a burned god wandering his own tomb, surrounded by black knights who burned with him out of loyalty or fear. When you find him, all you see is a lifeless god with the faint sound of his sword scraping stone, and the soft weeping of a god who's forgotten what he's fighting for. The fight itself is almost cruel in how quiet it is. He is just an empty old man swinging without any thought, and that's what makes Gwyn's evil so haunting. It's not the fire, it's the fear of losing it. He couldn't accept an age where gods die and humans rise. An age where his light no longer defines the world. So he burned everything, again and again, to keep the illusion of eternity alive. He is the original sinner in the Souls universe, not because he sought power, but because he couldn't let go of it. He couldn't imagine a future without his light. His crime wasn't creation, but preservation, a selfish mercy that condemned reality itself. When you strike the final blow, there's no triumph. You're not slaying a monster, you're putting down the world's last dying ember, a god who gave everything to stay relevant. In the end, Gwyn isn't a god or a monster. He's a very stubborn old ruler who couldn't stand to let the next generation take over. He didn't save the world. He just kept it on life support so he could die pretending it was still his. Lord of Blood, Elden Ring. If there's one word that sums up Mohg, it's decadence. The kind that seeps into the cracks of the world already bleeding. Born an omen, cursed, shunned, and hidden beneath the royal capital. Mohg could have been a tragic figure. He could have been sympathetic, like Morgoth, his twin brother. But no, Mohg looked at his exile, his deformity, his pain, and decided to build a kingdom out of blood. That's one way to cope, I guess. He found the Formless Mother, a mysterious outer god of blood and desire, and pledged himself to her, not out of faith, but opportunity, because Mohg doesn't worship gods, he uses them. With her blessing, he became the Lord of Blood, a demigod drenched in the crimson power of her essence. He built his palace beneath the world, a cathedral of gore where nobles and followers bled themselves dry in his name, smiling as they died. It's less religion and more of a massive murder festival, and at the center of it all, Mohg himself, regal, composed, and absolutely deranged. When you finally meet him, he doesn't roar or threaten. He toasts you to eternal majesty. He believes he's already won, that his destiny is secure, because in one of the most disturbing plotline in Elden Ring, Mohg has decided he's found his true divine partner, Micolash, the eternally youthful demigod, trapped in a cocoon. Mohg plans to make Micolash his consort, to share godhood, to rule as king beside his beloved. There's just one little issue. Micolash isn't awake or consenting. It's not just physical evil, it's spiritual violation. Mohg takes something pure, something untouched by the world's rot, and claims it. His obsession is so absolute that it becomes holy in his eyes. When the fight begins, it's less of a battle, and more of a ritual. Every attack feels like a sermon, every scream a prayer. The blood magic, the flames, the chanting, it's all theater. Mohg doesn't just kill you, he initiates you. And when he declares, "Anoint thyself in my flame of ambition," you realize he means literally. He wants to turn the entire world into an altar to his blood-soaked vision of divinity. And yet, there's this eerie calm to him, this confidence that makes him more terrifying than any raging beast or screaming demigod. demigod. He genuinely believes he's enlightened, that the world, broken and betrayed, should kneel before him and drown in red salvation. When he falls, he bleeds out with dignity, as if dying was just another step in his sadistic ritual. Mohg's evil is something quiet, a delusion so deep it's indistinguishable from faith. He found godhood not in light or fire, but in the warm, endless hunger of blood. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on screen now.